Welcome, everyone, to episode 44 of the RDH Sports Podcast. We're getting up there, almost 50. I'm
Mhm.
your host, Chad. Joined alongside me is my brother, Tanner. How's it hanging, dude?
It's good. It's really good. Spurs still suck, but it's good. We're surviving over here. Football is officially over, and Tanner's gonna start his deep dive into the other sports that are not quite as fun. No, just kidding. I do love the other sports. I do love watching them. They're their own unique experience. But I'm doing well. Like I said, Spurs suck. The Cavs are good. If you've been watching that, that's been fun watching them. I think they're second in the East, which is really cool. And it was a good Super Bowl, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts on it were because this is a big Super Bowl, I think, in my opinion. We'll get into it later, but get a little cliffhangers at the beginning of the episode. But
Get the drums rolling, get the
exactly,
gears flowing. Tanner pretty much hit on it. Today on deck we got 9 NCAA halfback prospect profiles coming up. That's right, we got 9 more. The latest NFL coaching news, and like Tanner said, the Super Bowl recap. So we're gonna jump into it. You ready to dive into this, Tanner?
dude, I'm ready.
There we go. That's what we like to hear. So right now, first part of this episode is going to be NFL draft talk. So it's the running backs today, and I don't think I've ever seen this weak of a class in the last like 5-6 years. This is a weak running back class to me. There's no first round running back in this class, and arguably, uh, there is a late second round running back, and even then, you can almost kind of push it back to the early third, in my opinion, for running backs here. So this is a class where a lot of the meat on the bone, as you would say, would be in the third round, in the fourth round. So I'm gonna hit a lot of guys that I've been looking at, third and fourth round prospects today. Maybe in the late second, but I do not see a running back going in the first round. And like I was saying, maybe second round, but even then, I'm not 100% sure a running back's going to be going in the second round. We could see as late as the third round. But jumping into these prospects right now, I'm going to start at the very end that I watched, and this was a fan. So appreciate it there, Jay. This is Bray and Allen, halfback from Wisconsin, junior. Draft grade is an early fourth round for me. Draft projection is going to be a mid fourth round, late fourth round. When you think of a Wisconsin running back, what do you think? Because for me, I think two words: consistent and balanced. Here's why. Allen had 2 seasons with at least 11 touchdowns and 1,200 rushing yards. In 2021, Allen had his best season and looked like Jonathan Taylor 2.0, literally. Then in 2022, he had an extremely similar season to 2021, but he added in some catches out of the backfield as well. In 2023, though, Allen did not surpass 1,000 rushing yards. He was very close within the 980s, but doubled his catches out of the backfield with 30. So this is a player who has been a featured halfback at Wisconsin, and the numbers backing it up. His freshman and sophomore season, solid seasons. Even this past season, his junior year, was still pretty good. A couple improvements I would like to see in the NFL, though, in his first couple seasons, are hitting the hole a little bit faster. I think he can improve there. And I saw a bit of hesitation in the tape that I watched whenever he needed confidence when running between those gaps. So late in the game, Wisconsin's gonna run the ball, and I was watching those late games and running between the gaps. I need to see him hit the hole just a little bit faster. Like I was saying there, in those gaps, you got to get there real quick. Me, a couch warrior over here talking about it, but overall, a fun prospect to watch. Great day 3. I think that this guy could, easily be a fourth round pick. I'm not sure he's going to sneak into the third round, but I think he's sitting there on day 4 or day 3, and you're an NFL GM going, okay, this kid could be our potential running back of the future. He'll be a running back 3, I would have to say, walking into the NFL his first season. Then if he has a really good training camp, he could jump to running back 2. But I could see him being a running back 1 in the NFL, maybe in 2 years. But just all depends on where he goes. But thank you again, Jay, and shout out Jay for that. If you wanted any other prospect you want to, learn about in this NFL draft, I go in depth a lot of these guys. So hit us up on Instagram at rdh.sports, TikTok rdh.sports, even in our website rdhsports.net. Next, we're going Travion Henderson, the halfback out of Ohio State. Draft grade for me is a mid fourth round. Draft projection is an early fourth to mid fourth. Uh, I don't know if anybody else, but do you remember this running back from a couple years ago? Because in 2021, he had an all-time season and seemed to be everywhere every Saturday. But Ohio State, running back, like I said, 1,200 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 300 receiving yards in 2021. With that kind of production at a school like Ohio State, you were practically punching your ticket to the NFL draft. But in 2022, Henderson unfortunately broke a bone in his foot, and he wasn't playing at 100%, which lowered his draft projection, in my opinion, because he continued to play through that injury there for a bit. Only played 8 games, but comes back this year in 2023 and really looked similar to that 2021 tape. He almost took Ohio State to the college football playoff until they ran to the buzzsaw, which was Michigan. But overall, Henderson is a day 3 prospect, in my opinion, and inconsistency, injury history is the reason he's there in that day 3 range. Jumping to Donovan Edwards. He's the halfback out of Michigan. Junior draft grade is going to be an early 4th round. Draft projection is a late 3rd, early 4th. The other Michigan halfback. And I was really surprised that he declared for the NFL draft this season, not going to lie. I really think this player could have benefited to return to his senior season at Michigan and be the bell cow featured halfback. But with the departure of the coaching staff, many key prospects in this weak halfback class, I totally understand why Edwards is going to pack his bags for the NFL draft. His best season was in 2022, where he surpassed 1,000 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. He almost seemed to be featured more than Blake Corum at times during that season, but he's been behind Corum his entire time at Michigan, and that's why you've only seen glimpses of greatness, not that consistent greatness that you need. I'm gonna need to see extensive NFL coaching from him. If he's gonna have the ability to be a halfback 1 in this league, I'm projecting him to be really a halfback 2, halfback 3 in his first season, halfback 2, second season, and potentially being a halfback 1 in his third season. But I need to see a bit of improvement there. But an exciting day 3 prospect. Marshawn Lloyd, the halfback out of USC, junior, mid draft grade for me is a mid 3rd round. Draft projection is going to be a mid 3rd round, late 3rd round. This player, Tanner and I actually got to see in person, and the elusiveness is at the top. It's at the tippy top of this year's halfback class. And the reason Lloyd has the ability to fly up draft boards after the NFL Combine in Pro Day. If he tests well and his 40's good, this player could jump up. It's always tough to be a productive halfback when your offense is pass first, but Lloyd did a great job of not only being productive, but being the best player on the field at times this season. In 2023, Lloyd accounted for almost 900 rushing yards and over 200 receiving yards, not to mention a halfback that hit the hole on the offensive line and took no prisoners after initial contact. And typically with elusive runners, you see them kind of go down right there, but he went head on. And when we watched him play against UCLA in person, he went head on a couple times too. Jumping to Audric Stime, the halfback out of Notre Dame. He's a junior. Draft grade is a mid 3rd round. Draft projection is going to be mid 3rd round to late 3rd round. So Stime, halfback out of Notre Dame, like I was saying, is the bright spot of Notre Dame this season. He surpassed 1,300 rushing yards and had 18 touchdowns. That's one heck of a junior season and is the reason that this player declared for the NFL draft. After that season, you're not going to not declare. A very balanced halfback. I'd say one of the more balanced halfbacks in the draft. Ability to hit the hole on the offensive line is easy for him and can run extensively behind a zone running scheme, which not many running backs in college football are that great at zone running schemes, and he's really good. Not to mention, this kid is hard to tackle, and it showed more than ever this season. The next running back, we have Bucky Irving out of Oregon. He's a junior. His draft grade is going to be a late 3rd round. Draft projection for me is an early 3rd round, mid 3rd round. Tanner always asks me about the sleeper. This might be the sleeper in this year's draft, in my opinion. His elusiveness is off the charts. Might be the hardest to tackle in this entire draft class, in my opinion. Great production in college. Irving's last 2 seasons surpassed 1,000 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns. He had 15 carries of 15 plus yards this season, and that's why I can see this player getting drafted earlier than anticipated. He breaks a lot of those long runs, and you need that in the NFL, especially in today's game. Hit those jets, and the second gear is all you need to go. I think a lot of teams will like this player when watching the tape, but Irving does not need to improve his zone ability. He's pretty good there in terms of zone scheme, and if Irving improves it a little bit more, he's going to be at the top of this class. His IQ within the zone scheme is pretty solid as well. But I could see him being a halfback 1 after his first year in the NFL. He's a fun player to watch. Now jumping to Troy Benson. The halfback out of Florida State, junior. Draft grade for me is a mid-third to early fourth round. Draft projection is going to be a mid-third to late third round. Benson did not reach 1,000 rushing yards at his time at Florida State, but he was a major reason that this team is undefeated this season. They leaned on Benson just about as much as they let on former Florida State running back Dalvin Cook. This halfback can handle the workload and has the ability to be a halfback too in the NFL in his first season, in my opinion. And he possesses the potential to be a halfback one within the first couple seasons. But it all depends on where he gets drafted and who he's drafted behind. But Benson is an exciting prospect. Like I said, mid third. So he could be there on day 2, but could fall into the fourth round. He's a fun one, but we'll see exactly where he goes. I could see second or third in there. But Jonathan Brooks, the halfback out of Texas, sophomore and or junior, however you're looking at it. Draft grade is a late second, early third round. Draft projection is a late second, early third round. Most experts, number 1 running back, very close between him and Corum for me. Brooks has a very limited college experience by only playing 20 total college games, and unfortunately tore his ACL this season as well. I read up on the injuries and said that Brooks will definitely be ready to go by training camp, so I don't see this injury hurting this player's ability, his draft stock. But Brooks has only had 1 year of production where he was over 1,000 yards and accounted for 10 touchdowns on the ground. That's an extremely elusive running back in open space, and he hits the holes in the offensive line extremely quickly. Year over year, he's continued to get better in the receiving game as well, which you have to see in today's NFL. And Brooks is going to try to continue the trend of being a first round halfback from UT taken 2 years in a row. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, but I think he could potentially be the first running back taken that is from UT, and that'll be 2 years in a row. Last running back and Tanner's favorite running back of this draft class. Tanner's going to jump into him after I jump into him. We got Blake Corum, the halfback out of Michigan. He's a senior. Draft grade is a late second to early third. Draft projection is a late second to early third round. This kid shows up in big games and is a major reason Michigan has had the success they have had over the past 4 seasons. Corum is all of 5'8" and runs like a truck, with his ability to juke you out of the socks as well, which is a scary combination. A strength of Corum's is his ability to always be lower than the defender and continue the run after initial contact. He could have left Michigan as a junior, but chose to stay and showed out his senior year by winning the national championship. A couple questions I have for this player in the halfback class. Will Corum or Brooks be the first halfback taken in this year's draft? And will there be a halfback taken in the first 2 rounds of this draft? Those are questions we're going to have to wait to see till draft day. But Blake Corum, for me, is my number 1 running back, slightly above Brooks right now. We still got about 80 days till draft, but right now, Blake Corum is my number 1 running back. Tanner, I know the folks have been waiting to hear you speak because I've been going for a while. What do you think about Blake Corum?
He's good. He's very good. No, I'm kidding. That's not it. But I think a lot of like what people like kind of miss with him too is just you hit on it very, very slightly, but just the way he has like so much power while being such a small running back. Because in today's NFL, you see it a lot where, these smaller guys, they just don't get the power that you really need. A good example that is not like that, I would say, is like Isaiah Pacheco. Everyone says he like runs really angry and he's just constantly like, putting feet into the ground, into the turf, and he's just pushing. He's getting that leverage. I think that's what Blake Corum does really well. I think he gets a lot of leverage on a lot of bigger guys, and he's, he overpowers them. And it's just like, wow, that's really impressive for a guy like that who can also be, elusive between the tackles and a guy that can just, kind of squeeze in anywhere and just have that amount of like power to get through, on like goal line situations, stuff like that. Go back and watch Michigan this year, how many times they were, in the red zone and they just gave Corum the ball every single time. And he's just like, boom, 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 touchdown. It's like he just bounces off of guys. He's so quick on his feet. There's really not much you can say that is bad about him. And I in my opinion, I think he's the best running back in the class. I think he's going to go as the first running back taken. It's just hard for me to see a guy, he had like 27, 28 touchdowns this season, which is stupid.
Insane to have above 20.
Like, it's just not fair. And say what you will about Michigan, say what you will about the running back, but I think that was a result of him along with, a very, very good running scheme from Michigan. So you put him in a scheme like that in the NFL, you put him in a good running scheme like we've talked about before with like Mike McDaniel, another one like Kyle Shanahan, stuff with schemes like that, that kid's going to run wild. Just the looks that he's going to get and the elusiveness that he can bring to a team and just the X factor, I think. Just someone who's young, who can bring a spark to an offense, a big play guy. He's going to bring it all. I really like the kid, and you're going to get an absolute standout if you draft him at all, because like you said, these running backs, they don't go that high anymore unless your name's Bijan Robinson, or I guess Jahmyr Gibbs in this case as well too. But you're going to get an absolute steal at this guy whenever you draft him. I think some teams are going to be reaching for him, in my opinion, but he's really good, man. He's obviously the best running back in college football, in my opinion, and he's got a natty under his belt now too, and he was a big part of that game and the games previous. So Blake Corum for president. Just kidding. Let's not do that. But yeah, also
first halfback taken off the board. Well, we can see, right? Like we don't know. It's gonna be him or Brooks. The experts, like I was saying, have Brooks is number one, but Corum is just so hard not to get behind. And like you were saying, his ability for like run after contact, like initial contact with him is, it's like you're playing on rookie. Like the dude just like runs you over every time. You're like, you're trying to tackle, you like fumble the stick. You're like, damn it.
How do you tackle a guy that's like this big and he's just like pushing into your gut? You know what I mean? Like as a linebacker, you're like, he's a tiny truck, but he's got a lot of power. It's all concentrated into one position and it's shooting right at you. And you're like, oh my God.
He's scary.
He's big. He's really good.
Yeah, he's great. So that's all we got for the college football portion of this show. I'm going to keep hitting prospect profiles, and then as we get closer to the draft, I'll actually start releasing, mock drafts and my power rankings and all that kind of stuff, and we'll get into them. Right now, I'm just educating the fans. As Brian Broaddus used to say, he educates, inform, and educate, and got to educate. We're educating the fans. I love college football way more than the average person, and I'm going to release about 100 of these. So if you like them, like I said, check out all the social medias at RDH Sports. Now NFL time. Not the Super Bowl just yet. It's going to be the very end because we tend to go for a while in the Super Bowl. But once again, if you listen to the podcast, we have to bring up the Cowboys. You know what I mean? We're Cowboy fans. We're not necessarily homers, but Dallas has a new defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer. Been out of football since 2021. Tanner, what do you think? What do you think? Last episode, you said you didn't really want him, and he's here.
He's here, and he's here in full force. And don't kid yourself. We got a little bit more homer than maybe the average analyst. But it's with Mike Zimmer, no. But with Zimmer, it's just like I just don't know why. I just want to know why. Like, what is the big thing that he's going to bring to Dallas? Like what is the thing that's going to make us jump out of our seats? I just don't see him having. Obviously, he was on the Dallas coaching staff back in like the mid '90s, and he was a part of that that Super Bowl with Barry Switzer. So it's like I like him a lot as a coach, but I just don't think it's his time anymore. And that it might sound rude, it might sound bad, but I saw the Cowboys get outcoached. I saw them get out schemed multiple times this season from younger offensive minds and younger defensive minds alike. So where is this going? In relation to how does it help the Cowboys improve this team? Because in my opinion, it doesn't improve this team. It goes backwards. I think Dan Quinn was a very good defensive coordinator, and I thought he got these guys playing really well. But in the big games, he kind of didn't show up like in the way we wanted him to, and he got out coached and he got out schemed, like we said. Is Zimmer going to do that same thing? I just don't. I haven't seen a lot of evidence showing me that he isn't. What is a Zimmer-led defense that has been like league's best, in leagues past? Like there could be one, and I could be completely wrong. But even if it is, it's like, it's from a while ago too. Like the offenses in the NFL have drastically changed. It's 2024 now, when he was a part of the Minnesota Vikings, like it was good. And I mentioned this last episode, but like his defenses weren't great. They had individual talents that were pretty good and they drafted pretty well. But as a whole, the defense wasn't great. I think he was on the Bengals coaching staff at one time too, in like the late to early 2000 or the late 2000s, early 2010s, something around that mark. But they made the playoffs. They were a good team, but in my opinion, they weren't like the league's best defense. They could have been, but again, that's 10, 15 years ago. Like the NFL is much, much different from that time. And I don't know how much you can really learn about the NFL with the time off that he's had. It just to sum it up pretty much, I'm just not the biggest fan of the older hires. If it was between Ron Rivera and Mike Zimmer, like why? Like, is there not anyone else out there that can potentially provide a newer, more innovative scheme? Like these guys that we're going to go up against. If you want to win a Super Bowl in Dallas, if you want to win this thing, you got to show, the Niners, Green Bay, the Lions, heck, even Tampa Bay. Like you got to show these guys something they haven't seen before, because they're just going to go out there and beat you like they have every single season. It's just it's one of those things. Like what is he doing differently that's going to set him apart from these other defenses, specifically Dan Quinn, that we've had in the past? That's my big thing. I don't see it going anywhere. I don't see it progressing in any kind of way. I really don't know where the Dallas defense is going to be in this time next year, but hey, I could be wrong. Zimmer, he's a great head coach, or he's a great coach, and he's great at getting his guys ready to go. I'm not doubting his ability at that. I think he's a great culture guy too. But just in my opinion of purely like what his results have been, like what his resume is and like what he could bring to this team, I think there's a lot of other guys I would rather go over. I would rather bring in Dallas, like Vrabel, great culture guy, newer defensive schemes, head coach, a lot more, in my opinion, a more impressive head coaching regime, just stuff like that. Like I just don't, I've always said that Jerry likes to keep in-house, and he does. And this is a great example of that. Zimmer was a coaching on the coaching staff, like I said, in the mid 90s, and he's here again, so I don't know. I'm curious to see your thoughts on this. I'm not the biggest fan, but hopefully it'll bring a new culture to the Cowboys defensive unit.
Yeah. I mean, to hit on a couple points, I mean, I was saying it too, Vrabel, it's really hard for me not to just go with Vrabel, right off the rip. I can't believe not only did he not get hired as a head coach, he didn't even get hired as a coordinator. I understand why Belichick didn't get hired, as a head coach, because he wants full reins of everything. I get that, right? I get why, Arthur Smith in Atlanta didn't want to necessarily do that. It's like, well, you know, why don't just be a coach, not be a GM too? But hey, that's why Atlanta went the way that they went. But Dallas went with Mike Zimmer at the defensive coordinator position because of, you said Jerry likes to keep it in house. He knows Jerry, right? I don't know another profession that you could walk away from for more than 3 years and just like step right back in. You know what I mean? I know he's been out of the game since 2021, but realistically, like that next season in 2020, he's he was looking. You know what I mean? He was
Yeah, of
looking a
course
little
he
bit.
was.
So I still just can't believe that though. And you nailed it. Dallas, I don't think the roster is the problem. I really don't think the roster is the problem. I think there's one guy on the roster, specifically at the quarterback position, that can't seem to win more than 2 playoff games so far. He's like 2-9 or something crazy in the playoffs, 2-7. But I think that's the big problem. I also think the other big problem is coaching, which I've been saying since Jason Garrett. You know what I mean? I think the best
Mhm.
coach that Dallas had was Bill Parcells, and they weren't good when they had Bill Parcells, but that was, in my opinion, the best coach they've had, since I've been alive. And you're bringing in, like Tanner said, just more, not that new regime, not that new young scheme that those young guns that everything goes in and gets. Like, I'm telling you right now, the Chargers, that's a scary team with the addition of Harbaugh. That's a scary team. And then you have all of these other young coaches that got hired over these older coaches, and Dallas is like, "No, we're good." You know what I mean? We're good. We'll keep it going. So we'll see how it goes the first year. What my question is every single time Dallas gets a new coordinator, a new player, anything. It's my question in I think pretty much every situation in terms of, everything. Life in general, right? Life advice by Chad. Here we go. If you're not going up, if you're not getting better, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like what are you doing? Does Mike Zimmer give you a better chance to win than Dan Quinn? I would say that it's extremely similar, if not giving Dan Quinn the edge because Dan Quinn's been in football. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I want to get better at that position, right? I want to get better at that position. And at the coordinator position, we're not necessarily getting better. And there were better guys out there that we interviewed too. So I don't know. You know what I mean? I said it right after the Cowboys lost in the playoffs and we re-signed Mike McCarthy. I can't wait to get out coached again next season in the first round of the playoffs or maybe the second round. But I need to see a lot from Zimmer because I can tell you right now, I'm a Cowboy fan going into next season with the exact same expectations is what happened this season. That's my expectations. My floor for Dallas is 10 wins. My ceiling is probably 12. I don't see them getting to 13. And playoffs, they'll get a great matchup in the first or second round. Maybe they win because they get a good seed in the first round. Second round, I don't know if they get past because maybe Zimmer goes back to his ways. You know what I mean? But look at his head coaches or look at his coordinators that he had when he was out there balling and going deep in playoff runs, right?
Mhm.
I would argue that those are way better than what Dallas has. So, we'll see. These are two Cowboy fans that are talking about, the Cowboys right now, and Mike McCarthy's gone 12-5 in his last 3 seasons, but it matters about playoff wins, and that hasn't happened a ton in Dallas, and I don't think that this move gets you to that next step, in my opinion. Anything else you want to hit on this hire, Tanner?
Yeah, I think you look back at his previous coaching stints. I pulled him up here on Wikipedia, but it's he's
Good old Wikipedia.
good old Wikipedia. He's from with the Cowboys from 1994 to 2006. Chad and I got to watch a lot of that as we were growing up. Chad a little bit more than I because I was barely conscious at the age of 1 or 2 in early 2000. But they had good defenses during that time. The Dallas did. The offense was a big part of the problem, but in 2007 he leaves, he goes to Atlanta and he stays there for a year as a DC, and then he gets, I would say, promoted to the DC position in Cincinnati, and that's, like I said, from 2008 to 2013. During that time, let's look here. In 2012, the Bengals finished with the 6th ranked defense in total yards and 8th ranked defense in points allowed, which is very good. And then he got a bunch of interviews. That's right about after he was about to leave Cincinnati. Before that, he got in 2009, he guided the Bengals to a 4th ranked defense and 7th ranked defense in total yards and 9th ranked defense in points allowed. So all top 10 categories, which was very good. But after that, of course, he goes to Minnesota and his defense is for 7 years from 2014 to 2021 and is okay. He does a good job there, I think, as a head coach. But in terms of defense specifically, probably not great, but you can't really, I don't think you can blame him too much there because he doesn't have, obviously only the defense to worry about. But yeah, I don't know if it's just like me or it's just, I just don't have a lot of faith in, defenses from 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They're great. They're great. Those were good defenses. And he put together a lot of those guys. But, like I said, the NFL's changed a lot over the years. We'll see what happens. But I think it's interesting to go back to that way. I think another interesting point, too, which we haven't mentioned yet, is Rex Ryan was in the running for this position. And apparently, Jerry really liked his interview, which is surprising to me because why are you not considering other positions, like you said? Mike Vrabel's out there. This guy is a wizard. I saw him turn around that Tennessee defense. I saw him turn
them
around
around.
he basically created Derrick Henry, like in the NFL, and gave him
And
a
he got
shot.
him the playoffs like every freaking year.
And he
Every
lost
year.
in like the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, or else they
Yes.
would have been in that Super Bowl. Um,
Yes. With Tannehill at quarterback. I mean, come on.
I know, and they had like young pieces, which we've seen have been very good in the NFL and other places, who they like to trade away to the Philadelphia Eagles for some reason, and I just it's kind of baffling to me that we kind of went with this. I'm not digging on Zimmer at all. I like Zimmer as a coach. I think he's done a very good job, and he obviously has ties to Dallas, which I love, but there's other options. It's just like there's other places I think we should have gone, but obviously I'm not a coach. I'm not a Jerry Jones, and I don't see a lot of what happens in those rooms and those interview rooms. So if they believe in Mike Zimmer, I'm gonna believe in him too. But I wouldn't expect a huge different result in this upcoming season because at the end of the day, not a whole lot changed, and it's a very similar situation to what we were looking at previously. So I don't know. We can move off this topic. Zimmer is the new defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. I think probably one of the biggest head coaching news before/during the Super Bowl that we could have seen. But I don't know. What do we got next, Chad? Where are we going from here?
We got a guy that I just I love this. And I briefly hit on it earlier with the Chargers. They're going to be a problem with Harbaugh. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to be a problem when you got a Harbaugh just coming off a national championship and then just walking in there like, yeah, I'll go to SoCal. I'll go to Southern California and just live here after winning a national championship. And then, oh, by the way, I'm just gonna go and yeah, new linebackers coach. Navarro Bowman. He's okay. That's a Hall of Famer. That's Navarro freaking Bowman. That and Patrick Willis. Him and Patrick Willis. Him and Patrick Willis for San Francisco. Are you kidding me? They were some of the most fun players to watch on the linebacker position, aside from Ray Lewis. I mean, just they were so much fun to watch, and that defense was sick. And he's the linebackers coach with the Chargers now. Harbaugh, it was just a sneaky hire, so I just had to throw it in. But I want to ask you, I know it's a linebackers coach, but at the same time, when you get a guy that knows as much as he does, and you have the young linebackers that the Chargers have. Remember, they have Kenneth Murray Jr. out of Oklahoma. That's a fast linebacker, right? That's a fast linebacker. I'm excited for the linebackers in Chargers. I'm freaking stoked. What do you think about this hire? I think it was gold.
I think
Gold.
I think it's funny. I think it's San Francisco 49ers gold is what it is, because I think these, like you
Nice.
said, it's like hiring, like one of the best people to ever do it. It's like who else is going to know better than this guy? Like what this just makes too much sense. You can get a lot of analytics, you can get these guys who've been knowing their stuff for a while, but like until you get a guy who's been on the field, who's competed in a Super Bowl, guys who've played at the highest level, like these guys are probably the best, coaching candidates you can have because they've been there, they've done that, they know what it takes to get to that level, and they know what it feels like, and they know what it looks like to move at that level. So I think he's going to get those guys moving right. They have like you said, they have a lot of talent on that Chargers defense, and I think funny too is get Derwin James working with those linebackers too as well. He likes to sub linebacker a lot too, and you're gonna have a nasty, absolutely nasty box sitting right back if you're gonna try and run against those guys or pass or do literally anything. They're gonna get going real quick. I'm really excited for this. It's Harbaugh's old ties back when he was in San Francisco, bringing them back, and he's like, "All right, what do you guys got? I know you guys were pretty good. Can you be coaches now?" And they're like, "Oh, heck yeah, we can, bud." So I like it a lot. I think they were mentioning that during the Super Bowl too. So um, really good hire. I mean, it's pretty much just like if you've competed at that level, you could probably coach at that level too. So I really like the hire.
And not to mention the other linebacker that I have to shout out, Eric Kendricks, was a big fan of him coming out of the draft too, and that's another guy that's so good, and
Oh
he's
yeah.
young 30s, but exciting times there, and not not the most exciting times in the Bay Area right now. You know what I mean? Not
Sorry,
the most
guys.
exciting times.
Sorry.
They're shambles. You know, it's not going well. You know what I mean? There's really nothing more you could have done between San Francisco and Kansas City in terms of the roster, but we're gonna jump into it. Tanner,
Let's get into it.
Super Bowl. We got to recap the Super Bowl day after the Super Bowl. Everybody else is doing it, so we got to too. And hey, we watched the game last night. Update the listeners with our results from the entire season. We picked every game from week 1 up until the Super Bowl. We threw in some college football games in there too. We have the final results of the whole season. Tanner, declare ourselves a winner, please.
For the NFL season, and I will also put in there the NCAA season, so we will just say the football season because we did pick the national championship and the playoff games for the NCAA, so those are also calculated into this as well. I went 69-40, nice. Chad went 67-42, so it was close, but I got a 2-game lead. The Super Bowl being the game I won, I predicted Kansas City to win. Chad predicted San Francisco, and here we are. I got 69-40. Chad's 67-42. I don't know if we're going to continue this list or we're going to do a separate one for a different sport or something, but, it'll be fun. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But Tanner gets the win. Another win this season against me in a championship setting. So that's Tanner just riding off in the glory right now, and it's not appreciated. But Chiefs versus 49ers. Give me your initial thoughts of the game.
Initially, I go into it and I'm like, okay, like I want to see, I want to see the 49ers get off to a quick start. I want to see them play well in the beginning of the game. And I want to see them involve, Christian McCaffrey and getting him going easily and just kind of showing this Chiefs defense who they are. And I think they did that. Initially, I think they did that very well. They went up by 10 points. I think at some point it was 10-0, and their defense, the Niners defense was playing really well, kind of holding back the Chiefs a lot. The 49ers offense was playing really well. McCaffrey went down. They're driving. They're getting their skill people involved. Debo's playing well. You see Ayuk every once in a while. Greg Jennings is having a good time. Brock Purdy is playing very well. They're on paper, it's like, okay, this team looks good. They don't have a lot of nerves. It's not great. But that first fumble, from McCaffrey, I think it's on the first drive or so. But they go down. They're in the red zone. He fumbles. Boom. Shot in the back. It's like, oh my God, come on, it's the Super Bowl. What are you doing? And then Chiefs stall out. Niners get more drives, and it's Niners for the majority, I think, of the first half. I think the Chiefs get 3 points or something like that. But it's not great. So far we're like, okay, this is going to be a defensive Super Bowl, and then something happens at halftime. Patrick Mahomes happens at halftime. The greatness of Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, you don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it either. But this is just the world we live in. The dynasty, he says, we're going to make it right here. This is what's happening. And so Patrick Mahomes, I actually saw a stat watching ESPN today, 298 yards after halftime. That's Patrick Mahomes. Or that's the Chiefs, excuse me. 266 of those yards is Patrick Mahomes. And he does get the Super Bowl MVP, after that halftime. I think the Chiefs kind of turn it on a little bit and kind of switch their roles again. I think the Chiefs go down, they get a couple field goals, and the Niners don't really look the same, I don't think. They go down, they have some unfortunate luck, but, a lot of this is these long Super Bowl record field goals. We broke the record twice, and it's a close game, I think, the entire time. I think both teams had good and bad points. But I just don't think the Niners ever pulled away. I don't think they ever made that drive that was like, we're winning this thing. We will win this thing. They would go down, and the Chiefs defense would kind of limit them to a field goal. They'd go down, limit them to a field goal. Go down. It's like okay, but when are you going to score a touchdown? When is this going to break open? And it never did. I think they kept the Chiefs in the game for way too long. I think you do not give Mahomes an opportunity to come come back, in a game like this. When you're up on Mahomes, you got to continue to go up on Mahomes. You can't just like lead by 7, lead by 6, lead by 3. He's going to cut that lead, man. You give him a chance, he's going to take it. Like, that's just what he does. That's why he has 3 Super Bowls and 3 Super Bowl MVPs, because he won them all. So it's like, of course, you give him a situation where he needs to score points, they're going to go score points. They will, I promise. And so I think give a lot of credit to the kickers for the Niners. For the Chiefs, I think they played extraordinarily well with Moody and Butker. And they set NFL records, which was awesome. And like I said, coming into this game, I know I'm getting on my rant, but KC, their defense, that was, in my opinion, the reason why they won this thing. I think the reason they have been playing so well this entire season, I think entire postseason, let me say that, and they showed it again in the Super Bowl, man. Like, they would consistently get in the face of Brock Purdy, force some tough throws. Chris Jones was a big factor. McDuffie, Jerry Sneed, they had up and downs the whole game, but they made plays when they needed to. And I think that was a Super Bowl winning defense, regardless of if they actually won or not. But I really liked how they played. I think that this was a game where the defenses was going to tell the whole story. And unfortunately, towards the end, the Niners defense got a little bit out magic by Mahomes, and it sucks to say, but he goes on, he wins his third Super Bowl, and I thought it was interesting. We'll get into the overtime, I think, after I let you go on, see what you say, but because I think the overtime is like a completely different thing. It was just, that's a whole nother conversation, but 1919 at the end of that regular the scrimmage time, and it was just like, all right, let's go into OT. But what did you think? What did you think the Niners needed to do to put themselves in a good position in this game? Do you think they did that? Do you think the Chiefs were just a better team overall? Do you think they made better halftime adjustments? What do you think?
I mean, I think there's a couple different things, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a couple different things in this game. I think that, first of all, I think everybody knew that the Chiefs looked beatable. I think everybody
They did.
went into that game going, I don't have the Chiefs winning, or I have the Chiefs winning by just a little bit. And if you're a diehard KC fan, and if you want to bet, then okay, good for you. You know what I mean? Good for you. I wish I could have seen 3 Super Bowls. You know what I mean? And he's just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about him a lot on this podcast in the coming years. But let me get my rant real quick, and then we'll talk about overtime. First of all, you asked what did the Niners need to do to win? You can't have it in a 1-score game against Patrick Mahomes. Like, when you have guys like Tom Brady and you have like Mahomes, and I mean, because now he's in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, who, by the way, he has more Super Bowls than them, and he's in his 20s. What do you do to stop these guys? Right? What do you do to stop these guys? Kyle Shanahan is a offensive genius. He is an offensive genius. Nobody can take that away from him. Nobody can take that away from him. But that's what they needed to do, was not let it be within 1 score. And you hit on it briefly earlier. There's a time in games and in sports in general, momentum matters, and you see momentum change. Kansas City getting the field goal at the end of the first half, the momentum shifted right there. In my head, on that last drive, I thought if Kansas City gets points, then this game completely changes. If they go into the half down 10, they get the ball, okay. You know what I mean? They could be down 7, they could be down 3 if they score, but then that first drive in the second half turns into a must score. Now, the Niners didn't keep it outside of 1 score in the second half. They did in the first half. Like you said, they were up by 10, but that's a field goal and then a touchdown, right? That's not enough for Patrick Mahomes. That's not enough for Tom Brady. That's not enough for those guys, right? So first of all, the Niners shot themselves in the foot offensively, right? You nailed it briefly earlier. Christian McCaffrey fumbles in the red zone. You don't ever see that. And not only does Christian McCaffrey, they had multiple
Multiple turnovers.
turnovers, and
Mm-hmm. Muffed punt.
there's Yeah, thank you. And there's a saying, you can't keep giving the Chiefs the ball.
Mhm.
You cannot give the Chiefs the ball more. I mean, if you
Especially
turn the ball over, literally, if you turn the ball over one time against the Chiefs, you can pretty much count points for that. Pretty much. This game was insane because I think it was the first time in a very long time or ever that the number 1 and number 2 defenses lined up against each other, and you saw how good these defenses were. They were magnificent. The Niners kept Patrick Mahomes to nothing, and the Niners kept Patrick Mahomes to under 30 points in the game. Like, that's a very successful game against Patrick Mahomes. But what they didn't do was their offense. That's just what they didn't do. In the beginning, it worked, right? It worked. And then they stalled out. They would stall out. They'd have to kick field goals. They broke the field goal record. Then Kansas City went down. Buckner broke the field goal record. So what the Niners needed to do was continue to step on the gas pedal on the offensive side of the ball. And not only did they not do that, they turned the ball over when they needed to do that. But then the annoying part about it was watching the Niners, they stopped the Chiefs on defense. And then they would get the ball back on offense and they would just give it right back to them. Like, you can't do that against the Chiefs. You can't do that in the playoffs. So I think that the Chiefs looked beatable. And I think that the Niners could have done it, but I think that they got outcoached. And this is a new saying, they got out Mahomes. Like,
Yeah.
it is just going to be said, and we're going to be dropping it. Like, it's his magic, Mahomes magic. Like, that guy is magical. And if you don't like watching football, then you're probably not listening to this podcast, but we like watching football and we talk a lot of football here, and that guy's special. And I don't know if there's going to be another guy like him. If Lamar Jackson had a couple Super Bowl wins, then I'd be like, okay, Lamar Jackson's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a new style of quarterback. He's this new guns, this new quarterback. But Mahomes is completely new. He's completely new. He's not only doing things that has never been done before. He's doing new things every season. New things every season. Starting these kids are practicing no look passes now, right? For football, that's insane. That's insane. You're doing it against the best guys in the world. And you're throwing no-look passes. You're throwing behind the back, throwing left-handed passes. The reason they lost is because Mahomes. It's just that simple. That's the reason they lost. And yeah, Mahomes, I would say, deservingly got the MVP. Without his key third down, getting those key third downs at the end, especially the run at the end of the game when he was dead to rights, and then all of a sudden he scrambles for 20. It's like, okay, there he is. There he is. He's been here all game, but he's back. And oh, guess what? He's only got 10 yards, touchdown. Like, tell me that wasn't so Patrick Mahomes or scripted that they didn't even need to go to the second overtime. He's like 12 seconds left in the game. Okay, 2 seconds, hike the ball, tug, walk. It was a walk-off, but it wasn't really a walk-off because we're going to get into the overtime stuff. I'll let you start with it. But, like, that was cold.
It was cold.
That was cold. That was pretty cold.
It was nice.
And you said it, and I'm gonna throw it over to you. You briefly said it. He's in there now. He's in there. That conversation. He's in there. This was a big game. This was either Super Bowl win 2, which he already had, or Super Bowl win 3. 2 to 3 Super Bowls, that's big. Peyton Manning never did that. Drew Brees never did that. A lot of quarterbacks that we can say in recent years did not do that.
A lot of quarterbacks.
A lot. And this guy's still young. I mean, he's got what? I mean, realistically, 8 to 10 years of this, probably.
At least.
Like, at least. You know what I mean? At least, especially with how this kid takes care of his body. I know the dad bod that went viral. Don't quote me on that one. But this is the most superior athlete in the NFL right now, and we're getting to watch him. And he's already won 3 Super Bowls. But what did you think about the Super Bowl? I mean, just overtime. Just start us there, because that was weird. That was a little weird. I'll just say that.
It was really weird. And I think before I go into the overtime, I want to go over a couple of your points too, because I think they make a whole ton of sense too. With your momentum argument, absolutely, dude. Like there are a few plays in a game, and any NFL athlete will tell you this. There are a few plays in a game that define a game, and a lot of times they're big plays. It's who gets the big plays, who's gonna make that catch. And I think the Chiefs had every single big play in that game. That wasn't a turnover. That wasn't like the Niners not turning the ball over. Like I think they were on the receiving end of every single big play, is what I mean. Like with that muffed punt, that is just so unlucky. Like that is just the most unlucky thing that could happen in a Super Bowl. It hits off like the shin or like the ankle of some random guy who's walking by, and boom, it's you have to recover it because the return man. I don't remember who it was, but he's doing his best. It's like, oh my, what just happened? It's because your nerves are up. It's a Super Bowl, whatever.
He made the right play. It hit off
He
his player
tried.
that was blocking off his foot. He made the right play. He just didn't get the ball,
Yeah,
right?
and you go for that play, and you probably don't get that every single time. Like you probably don't at all. It's just one of those reactionary things, and it sucks. But like Chiefs get the ball, they go down, score a touchdown, and it's like, oh, really? That happened? But that's a big play, and that's a game defining play. And I want to hit on your point too, because I thought the third downs were really, really beneficial for KC. I thought that anytime that they were in third and long, they dialed up a really good play call and they at least got close or at least, made a really good effort to get it. When the Chiefs were in third and short, I think those were some of the best play calls I've ever seen. And we did not see a single tush push. If you watch that broadcast, Tony Romo was like, "Oh, the Chiefs, they don't run that thing." And they don't. They don't because it's just not their style of play. Patrick Mahomes is not going to get up on the line like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts and push that thing over the line. They just out finesse you on third and short. Like it's just one of those things. How many times did you see that option play that they lined up in, and it would go to someone different every single time? The one where Mahomes, he was wide open. No one thought that he was going to run the ball on that third down. You remember that one? And he's just pitches the option off. All right, I'm taking this. This is like a simple play. You see the Cowboys run it all the time. It's like, okay, boom, that's like 30 yards. It's like, what? This is third and short. Like, what are we doing? Or, the one where he's like the little screen pass, it goes to the right. I don't remember who caught it. That one was awesome. The one where it was actually like a designed keeper where it's so good. I was really, really impressed with their third down offense, and I think that was a big portion of the game. But getting into overtime, I think a lot of people, I don't think, understood like what it was, these overtime rules, because since the rule what happened, like this rule change was made, we haven't seen one of these. We haven't seen, I don't think, an overtime in the playoffs up until this point. So it
Is it? I don't know if it's playoff rules or if the Super Bowl's different.
no,
I think that
it's playoffs.
it's playoff
It's
rules.
all playoffs. Like
Okay.
these are the rules for every single playoff game, and I think I don't know exactly what they are because I haven't looked them up. But
Well, real quick, if
mhm.
you score on the opening possession, the team then gets to match you to score. The only way the game ends is if it's a defensive turnover or a
Correct.
defensive score. But if you get 3 points on your first drive and then the other team goes down and gets 7, it's over. If you get 7, then you have to get 7. So you have to match whatever that team
hmm
does essentially.
Yeah, it's like college football in a way that like they have like
Correct.
you start from like the whatever. It's like
Yeah.
the
Like the
50 or
25,
25 or something,
35 or whatever.
and you
Yeah.
go down, you get points, and someone has to match you. And if you go for 2, then they have to match the 2 point as well. But like I that's the overtime rules. Basically, whoever gets the ball first, it's like a new game is the way they were describing it. You get the ball first, and whatever you do, the opponent has to match that or get better than that. Essentially, whenever your drive is finished and their drive has started. So in that case, where if you get a defensive touchdown on the first drive of the game, then it's that's your possession. It's over. That's their possession. They get points. It doesn't matter. The game's over. So I heard a lot of buzz after the Super Bowl that the Niners players didn't understand the rules
There
of
was
overtime.
multiple interviews that I saw that they said that they did not understand the interviews at all. I think it was ESPN or Sports Center or the NFL that posted it on Instagram today, and I'm pretty sure it was like a couple Niners players. I don't know specifically who it was, but then it was a couple Kansas City players. I think it was Leo Chenal was like, no, we talked about that every single week, and we literally had like a 15-minute meeting like every week to talk about like these specific things, and they literally had it like yesterday. So like that to me, that's insane that the coaching staff wouldn't let the players know, and or the player like that to me is weird. Like that was the weird thing that you were saying. Keep going. I just had to interject right there.
No, and it doesn't make any sense, is what you're saying, what
Exactly.
I'm saying. Like, why do you not know the rules? This has been a rule for multiple years. All we haven't seen it happen. Yes, that's true. But like, do you not remember when it was made? Like, do you not remember when Patrick Mahomes got the ball in overtime and didn't let Josh Allen have it? Do you not
Yeah.
remember in the AFC Championship game, like a couple years, not couple years, but like during Mahomes' couple first season, Brady had the ball. He went down, scored a touchdown in overtime, game over, they go to the Super Bowl. Like, it's like, do you not remember that happening? Do you like that is like not happening anymore, So if you have a question about it, I think you should ask. It's unacceptable that they don't know the rules of overtime in the Super Bowl. Because that is just that's on the coaching staff, that's on the team itself. I'm sorry, like take a Google search away, like these past like 2 years that it's been implemented, like that's your fault. It's not like you can't. That's not an excuse. Like that's your fault. You should know the rules of your own sport, and if it comes down to that situation, you should know like what to do in those situations. But regardless of that, I think they played a good overtime. I think it's
They
questionable.
stalled.
They did stall, but I think they had a good drive going for the first part of that overtime. They took a
Question
lot of time off the clock.
for you at the end there. I know it's hard not to kick the field goal, and I know it's kind of a low scoring game, but do you not put your chips in on Mahomes there? Because you know he's going to go down and score.
It depends
You
on
know he's
what it
going to.
was. Like, what was that third down like? Was it third and short? I know they were in,
It was
obviously.
short. It was short. It was within the 5-yard line.
I think it was
You know what
under
I mean?
5 yards, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
I'd have
But
gone. I'd have
you
gone.
you could have gone, but you would have
Probably
essentially
will.
given Mahomes a short field.
Yeah.
Go get a field goal.
No, a long field.
Kind of. Like, all he's got to do is get a field goal. He's got to make it to like, what, the
Well, that's
40?
true. That's
Like,
true.
with
Yeah.
Butker's range, like he's gonna
Yeah.
nail that dude. But
Booker
like,
let it from 70.
yeah, and then they'll give a couple they'll give a little extra on top of it just to make sure he makes it. But no, with I agree. Obviously, we look back in retrospect and it's like, okay, yeah, they probably should have gone for it. But I you know, is it advantageous to get the ball first in overtime? Probably not when you're playing
Not with
Mahomes.
those rules.
Like if you get the ball second, then you know what you need to do. Okay, I need to get 7 here. Or, okay, I need to get 3. Or if I get 7, I win. Or it's like, okay, I could get a touchdown, but go for 2 and then win. It's like one of those things. But I think the only good situation that comes of getting the ball first, and this is like a lot with like, actual starting an NFL game, you have to score a touchdown. You have to. If you get the ball first, you have to score a touchdown, or else they're just going to go get a touchdown and win. Especially in a game like this, like in that situation, you get a touchdown, they go get a touchdown, then you get the ball back, and then you keep going. And then I think at that point, I think first touchdown wins, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's for certain, but
After the first possession.
by each team.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So if you get the ball first, you have to score a touchdown. If you are that confident in Patrick Mahomes getting a touchdown, you should probably, take it first, second. I don't know. Mahomes is going to go down there. He's going to get a touchdown regardless. So I understand like why they went. They wanted the ball. I don't remember who got the coin toss. I don't really remember, but it kind of seems like
Fred Warner.
Did he call it? Oh, and then they said, give us the ball.
To be fair, does Fred Warner and Patrick Mahomes really go out there and call it, or is there an already like the coach Shanahan was like, we're going tails?
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Right. But it's interesting. Like I said, you just don't give Patrick Mahomes a situation to win. I've heard a lot of comments. I've heard a lot of like rumors that are like, not rumors, but like questions. Like, what does the clock do in overtime? Nothing. That's the answer. The clock doesn't matter at all, because it's just like a 15-minute. It goes down. When it goes down to 0, you go to double overtime, and I don't think you kick off. I think you start in the exact same place you were. It's like a quarter ending. It's like the first going to the second quarter. You just like switch sides of the field, I think. But so the clock is really not a big factor, but like I just don't understand There's a lot of ways you could look at that, at getting the ball, deferring, you know, in all those situations. But if you're the Niners, you got to get a touchdown. You get the ball first, you have to score a touch. Like you have to. And if you want to go for two, that might not be a bad idea either, because these guys are going to have to match whatever you put up. So I'm not 100% sold on these overtime rules quite yet. I think there's still a couple holes in them. But this is the first time we've really seen it, and it impacted literally the biggest game of the year. I'm not blaming the rules at all. I think the Niners players should have known. I think they should have understood what their sport, the overtime rules in the biggest game of their lives is. If you don't, ask a question before it starts. Like let the ref explain it a little bit. Like go ask him. He's gonna tell you. So it's like I just don't. It's a little unprepared, a little unprofessional to me. But I think they got the ball, they go get a field goal, and that's when they lost. Like it really was. It's unfortunate. Just don't give Mahomes a chance to win. You gave him a chance to win, and he won. He went down. He scored. He scored. It was easy. It was easy. Like he made it look easy. But overall, pretty sloppy game, I'll say, from both sides, with a couple big plays from the Chiefs, kind of hailing supreme, and that was what put them over the top. But I'm curious to see what your thoughts on this overtime were. We kind of went into it already, but specifically, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, last football talk, last recap
Hmm.
we got, last point for football until next season, and then we're all draft talk and more, rumors and all that kind of stuff in the off season. You know, me personally, I as a fan, I didn't know the rules had changed. I had no clue, and when they showed the graphic up on TV, I was like, oh. Okay, cool. It's like college football. Like, that's
Hmm.
exactly what I thought. And then when Fred Warner said he wants the ball first, I was confused. I was like, but why? Like for me, I would take the ball second because, like you said, you would have to match whatever happens first. So, if Kansas City goes down and gets a field goal, it's like, okay, all I gotta do is score, get touchdown, we win,
Hmm.
right? Now, maybe it's the argument of like, no, our offense, like we think it's rolling. We got the plays we want to do. We don't want to lose confidence. We want to, keep the ships at full sail. We want to keep going foot to the metal. We don't want, our confidence to be downed by Patrick Mahomes because we know he's going to score in overtime. I mean, maybe, right? Maybe, but maybe the Niners get a stop. Maybe the Niners get a defensive turnover and it's over. And all you got to do is kick a field goal. You know what I mean? For me, I think me and a lot of other people, I could be wrong, but I think it is a distinct advantage to get the ball second in overtime because you could get one, a turnover, and two, if they get a field goal, all you got to do is go down and score.
Hmm.
And three, I kind of feel like you're taking a little bit of pressure off yourself. Like I understand if they go down and score a touchdown, it's all the pressure in the world, but it's Mahomes. You know he's going to score. So like, why not just go second, right? That's my whole take on the overtime situation. It's very odd. I didn't know it had changed. I think it's only been a thing for this year. You said maybe one more year. Like I said, I didn't know the change of it, but when they put the graphic up in front of me and showed me it, now given the coaches, I don't think had that. They had the refs butchered explanation of it. No offense to the ref, but like I was like, okay, thank goodness I can read
Hmm.
because I have no idea what that guy just said, and I don't think Fred Warner did either. And to be fair, that is overtime in a Super Bowl. That I mean, no matter who you are, you're dialed in at that point. You're not like you know what I mean. Everything else is you get in that mode, you get in that zone. So I don't know. To me, that's hard for me to sit here and say that the Niners just didn't know about it. Like there's something more going on behind the scenes, in my opinion, if the whole coaching staff and the team had no idea of these rule changes. To me,
I
there's
mean,
there's something more.
it's because it's never happened before, and that's why I think it was such a thing that they didn't know, because we haven't had an overtime playoff game like that where someone just goes down and scores. It's like like what game was in overtime, in this past playoffs? I don't think any of them. So it's like we didn't see it during the wild card divisional round. We didn't see it the previous year when I think that was the first year it was implemented, or maybe it was before that. Like we haven't seen it. So I understand why they didn't understand it, but like it's not a good reason in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's like you said, it's unacceptable, but I don't know. I think there's more to the story there, and if you really are into the the tin hat conspiracy theorist scripted game, I don't think this game could have gone any better scripted wise to walk off and not even have to go into second overtime and the Chiefs storming back and going down. Like if you're the conspiracy theorist, then yeah, throw that in there. Why not? And then throw San Francisco not knowing there too. And you got a really strong conspiracy theory. But that is it for the football talk for this episode. Last notes we got on the podcast is Champions League. We record on Mondays. Champions League comes back tomorrow. So next podcast we will hit some of those games. I'm a PSG fan, so let's hope I'm happy. And we'll see what happens. Tanner, any more sports news? Or are we good to end this thing?
No, man. I'll be watching some Champions League. I'm really excited. You get to this time of year and you're like, "Oh my gosh, football just ended, but the Champions League is right. It's right here." I'm excited for that. It's going to be a good one. And it's going to be hard for me to watch it though. I got in-office days on Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's literally the only day they happen. Like 2 p.m. and it's like, "Ooh, maybe
Record them.
That's true.
Stay off the phone. You know what I mean? That's what you got to do.
It's so hard though. It's so
Yeah,
hard.
I know. I
I'll
know.
I'll be watching. I'll be getting my updates one way or another. So it'll be fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We got for this episode. You got anything else, Chad?
We'll be seeing you.
Bye bye.